Welcome to Flanders Game TCG, your home for One Piece content. In this episode I'll be covering the yellow-black leader, Koala, from OP12. The reason I'm playing this deck is I believe that there are currently a lot of high-cost bodies being played in a lot of decks, and also there is a lot of cheating out of other characters using other characters' effects. Because of this, we'll basically be punishing our opponent for doing any of that kind of plays, while also being rewarded for being able to do it ourselves. It also is deceptively quite aggro, with Nico Robin being able to pull cards from our opponent's hand, and that by us constantly attacking their life, we basically put a time limit of the game of when we're going to win. And now we have the deck list. So first up we got the Alt Art Leader. I was pretty happy to be able to pick this up. I think it's probably one of the best that came out with this series. Things like the Kuzan as well, but I wasn't too big a fan of that. So run 2 Captains Assembled. This is just to look at the top 3 for a Rev Army card and then trash the rest. This is useful as it fills up our grave with our Thriller Bark cards and our Rev Army cards. Then we have 4 Koalas. These work exactly like the Captains Assemble, but as a character, and it is a 1k counter. Again, looking at the top 3 for a Rev Army card. Other than Koala, or a Nico Robin, which is also important to note, and then trashing the rest. So again, loading up our trash. Then we run 4 Kumansi, so this is to help with the Thriller Bark Passage. It acts as a 2k counter, and also as the trigger of being able to play a 4 cost rested, that is a Thriller Bark type character. Then we have 4 Victoria Sindri. This again is like Kumansi, but is a 1k counter and a blocker though, so we can pull this out using the same effect with the trigger ability of playing a 4 cost or less as rested, as a blocker, or potentially just play it as a blocker using the 3 Don. We then run 2 Karasu. This is a Rev Army blocker that can be played if your opponent's life combined is 5 or less. So this is quite useful late game, especially as a trigger to save yourself. Then we again run 4 Dr. Hogbacks. This allows you to play a character with a cost of 4 cost or less and a trigger other than Dr. Hogback from your trash on KO, not rested, and as the trigger does the same but it has to be Thriller Barks rested. We then run 4 Perona. This is our control of the deck. It allows us to freeze a character that's 6 cost or less, can't attack. So this is useful, especially because it can be played by a trigger as well. We then have 4 Hack. This is a blocker that acts like Lucky Roo if you know it. It is basically a blocker with +4 cost, so it works with our leader ability, and has the ability of on KO allowing us to KO a character of 4 cost or less from our opponent's side of the board. So it's quite nice to be able to block and KO something else, or KO the attacker. We then run 2 Morleys. This is basically a 2k which also gains the +4 cost, which we like to use sometimes just so that we can get the 2/8 cost to draw with our leader ability. Otherwise it is just a 2k. Next we run 2 Bartholomew Kumas. This is again another 2k and is a Rev Army searchable, and has the trigger of being able to be played if our opponents in our life is 5 costs or less. So it can be a late game card that can be that extra swing to win you the game. Or we run 2 Hacks. This is a 6 cost 7k swing. It's mainly just a 2k, but sometimes we'll bring it out with a card later to have an extra beefy swing. We then run 4 Nico Robins. This acts as a blocker and has +3 costs, so it's hard to remove. And we can trash a card and force our opponents to trash 2 cards if they have 5 cards or more, so putting them down to 3. We then run 4 of the Bartholomew Kumas. This is a secret. This, as you most likely know, trash a card and gain a life, and then on opponent's turn, on KO, you can gain a life once it's KO'd. Basically a +2 life, really strong. We then run 4 Monkey D Dragons. This allows you to place 3 Rev Army cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck, and then you can play a 6 cost or less. So this allows you to play a lot of your important cards like those Kumas and Nikos. And then we've also got 4 You're the One Who Disappear. So this obviously has a nice trigger that brings you extra life, but also can help get rid of those bricks in our hand and add them to trash for later. So next I've got the Koala Turn Guide section. So starting into our first turn, typically we'd want to be going second, as we'd play on a lot of even turns, but I have changed some stuff so we can show if we're going first as well. So going second, we'd ideally play any Captains Assemble or Koalas that we draw, just searching and basically starting to add to our trash. Otherwise it's pretty easy just to pass turn. Going into our second turn, if we're going first, we'll ideally try and play a Sindri or a Karasu, just an easy nice blocker, especially playing into aggro decks. Otherwise, if you don't have those or you want to save those for later as you believe that they're vulnerable to some type of removal, we can just swing 8 with Koala. If we're going second, we've got 4 Don. We ideally want to be playing Hack. Hack is mainly one of our main things to play as it starts to set up our 8, having an 8 cost on the board and getting that draw early. As obviously we'd have to play a second one going into the following turns. Or it's nice to play a Perona or a Hogback. Perona, nice if there's something to freeze. Otherwise, I tend to try and trash it so that I can play it out from trash. Otherwise, Hogback is quite nice as you can just start swinging it from there and your opponent will eventually have to swing into it because it's just going to be getting free hits. Going into the third turn, we're ideally going to be on 6 Don. If we are going first, we'll be on 5. It's nice just to play any of the 4 costs mentioned beforehand with maybe a Searcher or just adding a 6k swing. If we do have one of these though and we're going second, we want to be playing either Kuma or Robin. This is mainly based on the matchup. I personally prefer playing Robin a lot of the time and then using it to trash a Kuma because on that time you probably still got a decent amount of life, so it's not too much of a worry. And going into the next turn, we play Dragon to then play the Kuma out from trash. You can do this vice versa between the two depending on the matchup, as they do both have the ability of needing to trash something, so it is nice to have both in hand. And as I've mentioned, yes, the next turn we want to be going into Dragon. From there, it's basically dependent on the matchup, but we basically want to just keep establishing big bodies like a Kuma and a Robin, or controlling the board using Hack and Perona. Alright, we're going to be going second here. We're playing against Boa Hancock. This is pretty decent starting hand. We've got some of our, we've got a search, we've got our key 6 costs, so we're probably going to be keeping this. We've got Perona as well, which will probably look to trash so that we can then play it out. A big thing playing around Boa is trying to avoid some early swings if you can't deal with it. We're going into 4, we won't have too much to play. Potentially either Perona or one of these. I think we're going to be fine. We're not going to need the Hack. So let's go with the Dragon and trash the next 2. Next turn we potentially won't swing and just develop a board first. Or we're just going to play Perona and freeze that, yeah. They have drawn Ran. They also might sing 5 themselves. I think I'm just going to trash the Kurisu for now because I'm going to play the Perona to stop this Marguerite for swinging. There's also the option to swing here now. They will most likely develop a body as well. Something potentially more powerful that we might want to freeze. So let's just see if they take that first hit. I know I mentioned I'm not going to, but I think it actually makes sense with the current board. Yes, so this is the one. I'm actually not too worried about this. We're going to deploy Perona and we're going to freeze this one. The key thing around freezing this one is this does give the rested Don to the character, but if they want to swing with it, they're going to have to rest it. So it does give us the option to swing back into it. Hopefully then removing it from the board. Yes, we would then take a life for it, but they might give it free. They had 2. Which we knew about. For this first swing, we know there's probably at least a 5 swing coming, maybe 6. So I can just do a nice counter, adding more to the Rev army in here so that when we play Dragon it doesn't cost us anything extra and we can still play it. And we're just going to let this go through. We don't have any Thriller Bark, so this is when the option where if we did toss the Perona instead for an attack, we could then play it, but we're just going to do no trigger here. Going to 6, our opponent is on 6 life, which isn't... 6 cards in hand, which is something we want to play around. We ideally want them to drop down to 5 first. So we're going to start off with a 5 swing into lead. Hoping either they toss 1 card, maybe trying to protect their life. If they do develop another board, it's not too bad. Perfect. And then from here, we'll deploy the Robin, trashing the Kuma, as I mentioned before, and forcing our opponent to trash 2 cards. this is the one thing I really love about Robin. Being able to force your opponent dropping down to 3 this early in the game is so painful. It also means that odds are when I swing with Koala, it is a guaranteed hit. And this is potentially where maybe a hack would have been useful, as it would allow us to draw another card. But at this point, they've lost a 2Ks. So they're probably not going to have much counter. This isn't actually a bad time to swing in. Cool, they take the life and nothing is developed. Now they're down to 2. So this is where the game comes Koala, where it's a bit of a trading game. Most of the time we're trying to just get small advantages in these trades by minusing cards from our opponent's hand, gaining our own life, KOing or freezing their own board, so that we always end up on top. If they swing into Koala, I just get to freeze something. I mean, into Perona as well. I just get to freeze something here. That is the one card we hate to see, but it happens. So we're just going to block resolve, let the attack resolve, and then freeze one of the Rands. So at least we're not going to have extra swings into us. Next turn, most likely playing Kumas to just reset back our board. They swing 6. This is where it's fine for us to trigger some stuff, trying to hope that we get a nice play to play out Perona. From here, it's either use the 0 cost, and I think it will be keeping the 2 extra life for the following turn, because it's basically where I'm trying to limit the turns down to basically 2 more turns and we want to win. Most likely we're not going to be playing Koala, so we'll gain the 3 that way. Cool. This next turn we'll be playing this into Kuma into Hogback with a leader swing. So we want to do the leader swing last so we can draw the cards, so we'll deploy this, choosing our 3 targets, playing out a Kuma, trashing the Hogback, and now when we swing we get to draw a card as well. They might have the counter for this, they don't. Potentially trying to develop a board, yep. Which is fine, us feeling with this amount of board with 3, with decent cards in hand, 3 which will most likely then trigger something, Thriller Bark, allowing us to play Perona. We're in a pretty decent spot. If they try play something higher like a Boa, they'd be losing their own life that they gain, so they'll be back onto 1 either way. And we should have at least 3 bodies to swing with on our turn. So they are... What are they? They are playing out a character, so because of this we can use our card action to force our opponent to take a life. So this is the sweet spot. They're swinging 5. We want to just not take these 5 attacks early. We don't mind just trashing a 1k. Also gives us a potential blocker to bring back out. As you see, they're on 9, so they most likely have a Boa play here, so they might just be swinging 5s. Again, just do the 1k counters. Yep. They're playing the Boa, forcing us to take a card. We force them to take their life. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swings. We should be able to counter out at least 2, so it gives 3. So if we see a a Thriller Bark card to play Perona, we win. or if we play Karasu, we win, or if we see a 0 life, 0 cost at the bottom, we win, as they won't have any blockers. We know that these are the next 2 swings. While we can, let's counter out of one of these attacks. The next swing most likely going to need to take. Yep. Using Perona, freezing the Rayleigh. Then if this is a 1k, we should be fine. Or a 2k. Yep. We're just gonna counter that. Cool. On our turn, 6 cards in hand. No blockers. Just want to stack up on 18. GG. That was a ranked game, by the way. So I am now on a 10, maybe 9 or 10 game win streak, I think, undefeated with Koala. So yeah. So that's it for the video, and here is the deck list. Thank you so much for checking it out. Sorry if you hear any loud one in the background. But yeah, it's honestly, this deck's been really fun. I'm currently, I think, 12 wins in a row and ranked with it, so feeling pretty good. Gonna be taking it to locals, and we'll see how it turns out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and message in the comments any cards you think could be added into this. I know Gecko's probably one of them, or if you are any other decks you want me to try out, especially with EBO3 coming around.